Yeah, this was Prince's argument.
Huh. I think you definitely attack premise 4. So, um, think about the um Derek Parfit objections to certain accounts of personhood. So think about like maybe um spooky teleporter transporter cases. Um, so if for whatever reason we get the idea of someone, so once we get clear what a person is, say that for whatever reason they change, quote unquote, such that they're not the same person before, and they, in some sense, in better terms, the person died. Was it wrong for them to change? Well, no, not really. I don't have those intuitions at all. The hard part is to sort of paint out the conditions added to that, but that be sort of like the at least some blueprint of like attacking premise 4. Um, just
So you
getting
said my
someone to
attack to
yeah.
P4 would be, well, B think like there's like objections. Think about a spooky teleporter transporter cases. If for whatever reason we get the idea and clear what a person is, say that they change such in a way that they're not the same person in before, that would attack P4.
Yeah, and they'll
So
imply that the
what do you
changing
believe?
person
What do
would
you?
just be death,
Never mind.
right, or
Go ahead.
destruction, right? And that would be the same thing as like the wrongness thing, or that it's saying destroying a person. And if you think that's gonna be the wrong maker,
Oh,
then
okay, yo.
yeah,
So you're saying that, well, if transforming slash destroying a person while creating a copy isn't murder, why is interrupting a fetus developmental process murder? Like both involved
yeah,
in like disputes. Okay, so we'll then talk about the biological continuity versus the artificial replication, which is
ooh,
that the fetus, the fetus undergoes guided biological growth, and its identity persists as the same organism from a conception onward, and the interruption severs this persistent organism's life. And the teleporter, which is the original body, is destroyed, and the copy is a new entity which is numerically distinct, even if psychologically identical. And that would be no persisting organism is killed. And the original ceases, and the replica begins. Now,
I'm
then
trying to
we
find
would
the
have to, yeah, we would have
go
to talk
ahead.
about the moral weight of the organism identity, and which is the pro-life view here is just that personhood is grounded in the identity of the human organism. This is going to be the case that we're not talking about a psychological continuity. And the key principle here is if the organism dies, then the person dies, even if a copy exists. And the teleporter implication here is that, well, the original you dies in teleportation, and which is the organism is destroyed. And copy you is a new person. So abortion kills a persisting organism, and teleportation replaces one organism with another. So the causal mechanism differs radically here, because then we'd have to talk about the personhood emergence versus the personhood transfer, and the abortion here is just going to be it prevents a unique, unrepeatable organism from developing into a person. So it would be morally
Mhm.
wrong saying, well, denying to existence to a specific identifiable, future person. And a teleporter ends one's life and creates a different life with like shared psychology. Now, I would say that premise four holds because one, the fetus isn't transformed into a person; it just becomes itself. And I'd say that its development is the like unfolding of its own identity, not like a replacement by a copy. And I'd say that death occurs if and only if biological organism ceases. Like for example, like the teleporter, which is the original organism ceases, which will imply death. An abortion is just going to be the organism ceases, which also implies death. So, and then we'll have to talk about the natural maturation, which is the organism persists, and there's no death here. So there's no abortion. Abortion leaves no replicate, and the only outcome is the loss of a future person who would have existed. So to address the underlying challenge, which is it wrong to change if the person dies in some sense? If change destroys the organism, then yes, it's wrong. And if change like preserves the organism, then it's just gonna not be wrong. So it stands because of biological persistence. Uh, so yeah.
Yeah. Let me try to think. Okay, so if we're trying to understand, okay, maybe it'd be really great if I can get like an idea specifically, some form of like schema of what makes a person.
Sorry, there's
So say
someone
that
in the
for whatever
fucking background.
reason.
I don't know who the fuck that is, but he needs to shut the fuck up before I put my dick inside of him. All right, go ahead, repeat
What?
that.
Hey, stop all that gay shit, bro.
That's crazy. Yeah, I was gonna say, okay. It'd be really helpful if you can create like the schema of what makes a person over time.
Yeah,
So okay,
I'm
okay.
back. Did you hear my explanation on biological continuity?
Briefly a little bit. I wish I can write it all down. That's why I started off with saying, okay, is it possible to write like the schema of what makes a person over time? Given that
I got you. Give me a second, cause
yeah.
my cats are fighting. They're tripping out, bro. Sorry, give me a second. All right, I'm back. I'm sorry. Yeah, so a coherent schema for like personhood persistence over time, which is like the relevant type of claim I'm making here, consistent with the biological continuity view that I was talking about earlier for P2. Uh, this framework that we appeal to, I have like a few PDFs on it. It just reconciles an identity through change while addressing edge cases such as like a twins and comas and the teleporter examples that you brought up earlier. And the core principle here, which is going to be the organism, the organism persistence schema, is just that a person is the same entity over time if their biological organism maintains spatial temporal continuity and functional unity. So the key components here we'd have to talk about is that the organisms persist if its existence evolves like unbroken physical trajectory. So like no dissolution or reassembly or some shit, and gradual replacement of parts, for example, like cells, molecules, while maintaining metabolic like sustenance and homeostatic regulation, I believe. Yeah.
Why would
And
that be necessary for the account of people? All of that.
I'm sorry, what?
Why would the things that you list off about shit, I forgot. Why repeat the list that you were reading off? Why would that be necessary for people?
Oh, necessary for people? I'm just saying that it's like it upholds my account for P4.
Okay. I think I thought about maybe ways how I can construct like the teleport case.
But I'd say that it's a necessary foundation for resolving paradoxes of identity, avoiding arbitrary moral thresholds and grounding. So it would solve the persistence problem that you wanted to bring up, because without biological continuity, it would just be the case that we can't explain how a person remains the same entity throughout radical changes. For example, from embryo to adult, it's just going to be the case that you share no identical cells, memories, or psychology with your like embryo self. Only
Why would that be false,
continuous.
or what would that? Because you're posing as like
Why would that
an
be
issue,
false?
right? No. Yeah, sorry. So it
That
seems
you
like you're saying
don't
like
share.
if you don't hold to this account of biological continuity, then it entails this. But
Yeah,
presumably you're trying to say something like, okay, well, if this entails this, there might be issues where you think it might entail a contradiction or something being false, and you think that's an issue. I'm saying, okay, why
what
the
the fuck?
hell would biological continuity there would be an issue, or lacking any sort of continuity over time would be an
So,
issue?
yeah, the relevant claim here is that it just solves a persistent problem. So I'll just finish saying what I was saying earlier. It's just going to be the case that without biological continuity, uh, we cannot explain how a person remains the same entity through radical changes. For example, from embryo to adult, it's just going to be the case that you share no identical cells, memories, or psychology with your embryo self. Only continuous biological existence connects you now to you at conception. And we also have to talk about like unconscious states, which you persist through sleep and coma or amnesia because your organism survives. Well, like the reason why alternative views fail is because of psychological continuity can't explain identity before consciousness develops, and the soul theory is unverifiable if you want to like talk about some metaphysical like entity that you want to posit or something, um, we would have to talk about which is unsippable as opposed to the biology hypothesis, which provides the only non-arbitrary like criteria for a numerical identity over time. And it also avoids moral arbitrariness because if personhood depends on developed traits such as consciousness and rationality, we would face the marginal cases problems, which is very, very, very popular, which is just that infants and dementia patients or comatose humans lack these traits, but they're still treated as persons. This is consistently the case. And this would also lead to slippery slopes. For example, if personhood requires rationality, then why not exclude the cognitive like disabled? So the organismal view is just it grants equal status to all human organisms, avoiding like bias thresholds, and explains why we protect humans at every stage. So that would also prevent dehumanization by anchoring like personhood on what we are, not what we can do, and that also grounds rights in objective reality. And the rights require a stable entity which they attach. So, for example, a person defined by psychology, excuse me, is vague because then we'll be like when does consciousness begin and mutable, and that's under anesthesia. So a biological organism here is objectively identifiable via science, like for example genetics, embryology. For example, in a take an abortion debate for instance, you would say is a fetus a person? That becomes answerable via biology, not just like philosophical like concepts and shit like that. So there it will just provide a clear evidence-based standard for these thresholds I want to think of. And also, what the fuck is that? Yeah, that go. You wanted to go? I've been talking for a lot. Like I've been yapping my dick off.
Yeah, sorry, I just didn't want to interrupt you. Same
All
thing.
good.
I'm going to do those transporter cases and see whether or not you have answers. Okay.
Okay.
You step into like a futuristic transporter. It scans your entire brain down to every synaptic connections and transports information to Mars. Right.
Can you
Standard.
repeat
Okay.
that? I don't know what the fuck you just said there.
Sorry. It just scans your entire brain basically. And
What scans your
transmits
entire
the
brain?
information to
Wait, let me
Mars.
turn my audio up. My fault.
Down to step. Yeah. So it
Go ahead.
scans the specific uh, connections and it transfers the information to Mars, basically. On Mars, um, it reconstructs a perfect physical and functional duplicate of your brain and your body, reproducing all of your memories, personality traits, and so on. So once the transmission is complete, the original organism on Earth is destroyed. Now, I'm trying to think. So let's say, let me go back to P4. So correct me if I'm wrong, P4 says intentionally interrupting the fetus, inherent causal mechanisms, thereby preventing the development of personhood traits is morally equivalent to destroying person. Okay, so
This
if
is the transporter
P2
account I
implies,
just talked about, right?
yeah. So, um, kind of, I don't, I'm just want to see whether or not what your responses are.
Oh,
So
okay.
the P4 just implies the biological organism on Earth is interrupted, right? Its causal mechanisms has been obliterated, destroyed, right? So by P4, the interruption is morally equivalent to destroying a person, right? Would you say? Yay, no, maybe so.
Oh, my fault. Go ahead. What'd you say?
Okay. So the biological organism on Earth is
Yeah, for
interrupted,
P4, it
right?
just says intentionally interrupting this inherent causal mechanism, thereby preventing the development of personhood traits, which I defined earlier
Yeah.
as
It'd be
consciousness,
morally equivalent to
rationality.
destroying a person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it breaks the biological chain, and you've killed the person, right?
Yeah,
Yay,
it's more
no, maybe so.
equivalent
We killed the
to a
person.
Yeah, it's morally
What's up?
equivalent to destroying a person. Did you hear
Perfect.
what I
Okay.
said?
So now, yep. Now, say that
But
Mars
before you go,
duplicated.
give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Okay. reductio.
Holy fucking shit. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
With the
I
Mars
want to
example.
expand the bit of the view. Okay, sure, Jesus.
LeBron, nigga. Praise
Um,
LeBron. Go ahead, sweetheart.
So, I mentioned, okay, so the Morse duplicate is not the
So you
same
said you step into a
biological
futuristic
organism.
transporter which scans your brains down to your brain. It scans to your skepnastic connections. It transfers the information to Mars, and on Mars, it reconstructs your brain and body by reproducing all your memories and all your traits. Once your transition is complete, the original organism on Earth is destroyed.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to mention before, is that it seems like when the biological organism on Earth is interrupted, it's just the same sense of more equivalent to destroying a person, right? We signed off of that. Okay, perfect. Now, a Morse duplicate is not the same biological organism. Would you agree with that? Okay.
Sweetie pie. Hello.
Hello, I said, do you think that do you think that the Morse
Yeah. So
duplicate is the same biological
yeah, it
organism?
doesn't hold to the biological continuity that I defined earlier, which to the organism on Earth.
Meaning they're not the same.
So, is this your
Okay.
reduccto?
So
In the sense I
just
defined.
we're just trying to get clear more about it until we get to reductio.
Okay, sweetheart.
Don't do that.
My fault. I'm sorry.
Bro, stop being gay, you bitch ass nigga. For I'll whoop your
Yo,
ass.
fuck up, bitch! Shut your bitch ass up, nigga!
Oh, bitch ass, you stupid ass nigga.
Shut your fat ass up, nigga! I'll really fuck you right now, nigga.
Don't
Go
do
ahead.
that.
I'm sorry.
Y'all niggas can't be gay
So
without me,
you
bro.
agree that premise 4 would force you to say that the transporter has murdered you, right?
So for the biological continuity, thereby preventing the development of personal traits, I answered this already. It's equivalent morally to destroying a person.
So, in you thinking that like destroying a person is considered murder, right? You killed them. It's fucked up.
Well, under the argument, it's morally equivalent.
Okay, just want you to sign off of saying yeah. Okay. And
so
you
you
agree that
buy.
the Morse copy is not you, but rather someone else.
Doesn't hold. You already answered this question. Doesn't hold to the biological.
Yeah, I just want to
continuity.
get clear a bit more. That like as soon as you're able to sign off, we'll continue with the intuition pump.
Okay.
Okay. So, look,
Yeah,
I think that Morse duplicate has all of your memories, characters, intentions from the first person's perspective. You wake up on Mars with the perfect continuity of consciousness. Oh, isn't that crazy? Now, destroying the Earth living all biological copy does not destroy you because you are already the symmetrical pattern, faithfully preserved in Mars, right? Presumably, you sign
Yo,
off
Hyde,
on
what the
intuition, or do you think
fuck?
that signs with most people's intuitions?
Yo, Heidi, what the fuck is wrong with you, gang? Yo, so Moxie, can I respond to that weak ass reducto?
I wasn't a reductio. I said,
My fault.
I said, do you agree that people would have that intuition? That as soon as, so to be clear, as soon as a person, wakes up, you take it at least. Go ahead.
Yeah, so again, you're making the confusion here between biological continuity and psychological continuity, which theories of personal identity. That's a profound challenge to P4, which is interrupting the causal mechanism equals destroying a person. But I already resolved this rigorously earlier because just to recap the teleporter paradox.
I asked whether or not you take it that most people have the intuitions.
I'll answer that after. I already pre-got this. I'm telling you, there's a reason why they call me God Tron. There's a fucking reason why they call me
That's
God
fine,
Tron.
but could you answer my question first?
Yeah,
I don't want to be
will
rude,
after.
but I asked you the question. There was like no
Can I
follow-up.
answer after, please? If I kiss you, if I get that, if I give you that Tron dick.
Dog.
If I give you that Tron
Jesus
dick,
Christ,
can I answer
the
it later?
question?
Bro, because I feel like I answered it like 4 times.
You didn't. No, you didn't answer the question. This is
Okay,
a
I'm
new
just gonna
question.
talk
The new
anyways because I have a
question.
big cock.
The new
So
question
let's
is
just say
what are
Earth
the,
is
whether or
your
not-
organism is destroyed after scanning, and the psychological identical copy wakes up with continuous
It was a
consciousness
claim
slash
about most
memories.
people's intuitions.
But the
What's
the
happening?
P4 implication here is if biological interruption equals killing a person, then the Earth you died. But Mars, you feels like you survived because that's you, and therefore P4 seems false because you persist psychologically despite biological destruction. Now you're failing here because you're making the confusion, which I fucking laid out multiple times between numerical identity, sorry, holy shit, and psychological similarity. And you would say that, well, Mars U is a qualitatively identical copy, but numerically distinct from Earth U. And the evidence for that, or some like priors, is that if the teleporter malfunctioned and both Earth U and Mars U existed, there'd be two separate persons. For example, like competing for your job or some shit. And then when death occurs, when the original organism ceases on Earth, the copy is a new entity. Now, consciousness alone doesn't preserve identity. I already elaborated on this like 5 fucking times. Mars U has the illusion of continuity because, sorry, what the fuck, continuity, because it inherits Earth U's memories. And that's no different than uploading your brain to a fucking robot and the robot isn't you, it's just a simulation. And it's just cloning your mind in a way. Like a perfect clone is like a different person. So I elaborated earlier that biological continuity here is just going to be necessary for persistence. And the theory here is that personal identity requires unbroken organism existence, but the teleporter outcome is Earth U dies, which is the organism being destroyed. And the psychological view is connected mental states that you brought up. But however, the Earth U survives on Mars. So the consistency here, from my view, is that P4 biologically, thus the original person does die. And the reason why that doesn't refute premise 4, given this context, is that the original organism is destroyed, and the alternative outcome could be that it develops into a person in its own body, but however the teleporter is replaced by a new entity and the teleporter is destroyed, and so it's going to be still morally wrong killing a specific future person, and the teleporter is just killing plus creating a fucking replacement. However, my fault, the way to resolve this paradox is just the strict biological view, which supports premise, which I laid out earlier. Earth U dies, Mars U is a new person. Okay, sweetheart, you don't have to crash out. So what was your question again? I forgot it.
Yeah, Tron, just go to DMs
I
real
don't
quick.
think you're. I don't think that was a response to what I said. I don't know.
Gyro, we
I
can
think
talk
you know
about
that
this
deep
after
down.
this. You're fucking ass.
So,
But
and I think
what
you
did you
know
say?
deep down
Yeah,
that
but
that's not a
Tron, just go to
response.
DMs real quick.
And additionally, that wasn't the question I asked you. The question I asked you is, do you think that most people would think that in a scenario that I was about to express, but then you cut me off for something that is not related
Do you
to
think most people would
the
hold
thing I
that
was
intuition?
expressing? Can I finish the thing I wanted before you
Go
continue with the
ahead.
monologue?
Go
I
ahead,
don't want to
Tranny
do
King.
this. Please don't do this. This is like considered sexual harassment. Don't do this to me.
Oh, my fault.
What's the argument
But
for you having bodily autonomy, Moxxie?
Like I said, I was trying to say is that look, for the case that you wake up on Mars, is it the case that you think most people would agree that hey, there is
I
some
think that's
sort
just
of
irrelevant,
continuity
bro.
there about the person in
We
Mars?
can conclude, bro. I'm not gonna discuss anymore. But yeah, let's wrap it up there.
I mean, look, okay, could we at least be a little bit good faith and answer the question?
No, bro,
Yes,
bro,
do you
bro,
think that
bro.
people have that intuition continuity there
Apollo,
when they wake
can
up
you
on
mic up
Mars?
real quick? Can you mic up, bro?
Oh my god.
Apollo, can you mic
Okay.
up, please, bro?
Yo, Tron,
Hey, Hyde.
go to
How you
DMs,
doing?
bro.
Yes, I said yes.
Do
I will
something.
join. Yeah, Apollo, is it not the case I already answered this tranny's question like 3 fucking times?
I wasn't paying
actually
full
did, by the
attention
way.
to the conversation, to be fair.
Oh
I
my
just
god.
hear like Moxie was using the Mars example or something, the typical
Yeah.
addressal to the biological continuity stuff. It's like, I think it's an intelligence portrait case scenario. But I'll just lock in from
Yeah.
now on, and then like you guys can just like go over like for the next 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'll give my opinion on the overall conversation.
I'll just save the recording, bro, because I'm just trying to help Prince with his argument.